Greetings. Libya, America, and New Zealand. That's a great start. Alright, well, I'm going to keep rolling on with the Astrodoodle, so give me a little bit of time here. I'll be back in a little bit. Okay. Let's have a look. Alright. Okay, just settling in. Good evening and welcome across the globe. Yes, we're still here, folks. Hello, Diana. Hello, Karen. Hello, Mariah. Hello, Path. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Ivona. Alright, let's have a look. How's Gisborne? It is super hot here today. Oh, you're in Gisborne, so you're visiting your mom. Got it. Let me show everybody while we're at it. So as of this very moment in time, this evening, folks, I don't know if you can see it here, but there's New Zealand, and right on the tip of the pen there is Gisborne. Of course, it's the closing up to the end of summer in New Zealand, but still, apparently it's super hot, but they're going to head into their winter soon. Now, Mariah is there in Gisborne, that's where she lives, but Karen is over there, so Karen must have gone up to visit her mum. Yeah. Diana Lynn. Oh my gosh, Diana, I can't remember the location. Is it Ohio? I can't remember. Path. Okay, well, Path is over here in Kentucky, USA. Ivona is up here in the New Jersey area. And then there's Sarah over there, over in Benghazi. There's Libya. You see, there's Tripoli. And Benghazi is right about there. Cool. Now, what did I miss? I think I got you. Yeah. Okay, let's... Oh, your mom's going back to Gisborne. So... Oh, it doesn't mean you're necessarily over there. Okay, Karen, I understand. So, anyway, your mom is back in Gisborne and it's very hot. Yes, my other friends in New Zealand have been telling me they've had a pretty hot, dry summer for most of the time. I think you had a couple of big hurricanes or cyclones, as you like to call them. But otherwise, you're very lucky over here in New Zealand because you're very, very well insulated from all the crazy, crazy chaos in the rest of the world. As you know, things are going absolutely berserk over here in China with Taiwan, and there's a full-blown war over here with Russia and Ukraine. We've got the Canadian freedom rallies up here. We got the American freedom rally over here in Washington, surrounding the Beltway, going all around Washington, D.C., We've got rampant inflation across the whole world. It's really hurting places like Argentina, South America, Brazil, Central America, and every freaking country on earth is being affected by the inflation. Even though it's really bad here, it's much worse in some other places. I know in California right now, they're looking at least $7 a gallon for gasoline, which in America it's unheard of. I know everybody in Europe, you're already used to paying very expensive gasoline, but it's going to get even more expensive. So you have to figure out, am I going to eat or am I going to heat? It's been an amazing time what's happening on planet Earth lately. Let me have a look. Let me just check in with everybody. Over here. I'll just do that over here. Give me a second. All right. So, there we are. Greetings, everyone. It is now Sunday, the 6th of March in Las Vegas, America. And the charts have been extreme and extremely weird. And again, none of this surprises me. Everything's highly predictable when you do the astrology stuff, at least as far as where the planets are. We know where they are exactly at any one moment in time. So you can look into the future. And you can gaze upon the past and ponder how and why this, and this happened and that didn't happen. That's why I like doing this stuff. To me, it's kind of like having a handy sort of app or a gadget that helps to keep me in line with planet Earth, because personally my problem is reminding myself that I'm here at all on planet Earth. Hello, Maria. Good evening. And there's Maria over in Arkansas. And Precious is here. Good evening, Precious. Hey, Precious, did you get my donation? I sent you something a few days ago. I hope it came through. All right. And Diana, please, Diana, can you remind us where you are, location on Earth, please? Maybe you're in England. I know we have a few Brits who come over here now and again. So let me just go over to the Astrodoodle. All right. All right. So, most of you are aware that we've got this insane war over in Ukraine, in Eastern Europe. And you know how we've been talking about so much chaos and reality check and very obscene kind of crushing behavior of Pluto misbehaving. Now remember, it's not Pluto that's misbehaving. Pluto is perfect. All the planets are perfect. So what we have to understand, if things are going wrong, it's our choice. Okay, but when we had Pluto in Capricorn conjoined with Mars, it was building up for 2 months, building up to war. And I was predicting a while ago that as soon as Mars conjoins with Pluto, we're going to be in war, we're going to be at war. Because humanity is still not mature enough to figure out how to moderate their behavior in such a way that works for everybody. They're still behaving as barbarians. There's some just handfuls of people at the very, very top who control everything and they own everything. And they have become absolutely maniacal on a global scale. The big power players are, of course, the United States, and then China, and Europe. And they're all behaving, and all the extensions from there. So it was very, I don't know what the word is. It sounds very sick, but it was actually very comforting for me to see the chaos and the insanity and the violence and the war breaking out in such perfect alignment with the way the planets lined up according to my own interpretations. The sun is already here in the Pisces region with Jupiter and Neptune. And I was telling Love Triber months and months ago, once the sun gets into Pisces, things are going to get very, very sick and perverted. And that's kind of what's happening because, again, the Neptune energy is still very new to humanity. We still don't know how to integrate that properly. Same with Uranus, and same with Pluto. Humanity has a long way to go before we can really come to terms with the energies of the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And of course, the other thing is that this is perfect. Everything is perfect. Everything is exactly as it should be. Why is that so? It's because it can't be any other way. So it's a question of how does humanity cope? Well, there are people at the very, very top, the elites, who are deeply vested in, let's say, the world, the material, the very physical material world of money, power, and control. They are obsessed with it. That's the only thing they care about or think about in their lives is power, money, and control. You just look at the very, very top with the political system and the corporate system in America. Same in China. Same in Western Europe. It tells you everything you need to know. But right now it's gone totally berserk. It's out of control. And it's turned into complete, utter violence and megalomania. And the most powerful weapon that's actually being used right now is money. The currency wars. It's very, very acute. Let me make a little doodle here for you folks. It's kind of interesting. Oh, there's my doodle from last week, I think it was. I'm just going to make a little very simple doodle here. Russian ruble, time. This is time. This is dollars versus ruble. So the Russian ruble was trading roughly like this, for the last year and a half. And then suddenly, and so now the ruble has lost about almost 40% of its value. The reason the ruble lost about 40% of its value is because the United States and what's called the SWIFT financial system, which is what connects all the banks all across the world, they decided to put Russia in prison, financial prison. So it means everybody in Russia, everybody, literally, everybody in Russia is now financially crippled. Doesn't matter how rich you are, you're financially crippled. Also, the SWIFT system has locked out Putin and all the other oligarchs, and it has locked out vast amounts of global trade all over the world have been shut down or blocked between Russia, the aggressor, and the rest of the world. So, the way I see it, what happened roughly 248 years ago is when America had 1776 and the big breakout, the big breakaway between the British and the Americans, because the new Americans, they wanted freedom. They wanted sovereignty of self, sovereignty of money. They wanted everything that embodies freedom. And of course, the whole world is watching right now. It's happening on a global scale, basically. And again, you can see it in the charts. This massive testing energy, commerce, Mercury in commerce, Saturn in Aquarius. Basically, humanity is being tested. The business and day-to-day of humanity is being heavily tested. And it's highly, highly challenging to the Uranus energy here in regard of global finance. So again, none of this surprises me. I think it's beautiful, huh? So, all the beautiful things that are happening in the world are still happening in the world. The whole of planet Earth is still an amazing, beautiful, beautiful, stunning place. I'm not going to rant too much about all this. Hey, if anybody, I'm here, I'm doing a, hello George Orwell. Hello George. Oh my gosh. Okay, Precious, it sounds like you're doing all that work on the house, so you can't even live there. It must be so bad, or else you end up in tenants court. Oh God, we talked about that in the private meeting, didn't we? Gosh, goodness. And there's George Orwell, 2021. George Orwell is that fellow who wrote the book 1984. It was very prophetic. It says here, I'm just going to read this, George, okay? I don't know you. I don't remember seeing you here before, but let's have a look. It says, hey, Terra Lumination, it's been a while since I've gotten a reading from you. This is the second time I had a dream about spiritual warfare. I had this dream last night, and it tips on how to interpret. Okay, let's have a look. In the dream, I heard about millions of people fighting. You heard about bats, swords, and it was to the death. I was able to hear it clearly, truly terrifying. It's Andrea. Remember the star card in 2017. Wow. Whew. Yeah, that's been a while. Huh. Wow. Well, thank thank you for visiting. In the dream, I don't think it's too difficult to interpret. I think you're basically getting a very clear bird's eye view of what's happening on planet Earth right now. Millions and millions of people are fighting. That's what's happening. And billions of people are being sucked into a fight that they don't want. And the fight is being engineered by the elites at the very, very top, who are willing to use swords, including to the death, in order to get what they want. Look at it this way. It's going to get all kind of gloomy and doom and gloomy if I get onto this, so I'm not going to spend too long on this. Okay, greetings everybody. Hello, Andrea. So, I don't know. I'm just letting you know that it's been very, very spacey for me over here. As always, I blame it on the planets. I look at the planets like I look at a weather chart and how it's going to affect me personally, and then I do my best to accommodate, and so I can navigate in and around and through and over and under all these different vibrational energy fields, so that I don't end up as a victim. It's so easy to end up as a victim if you're not aware of what's going on up there in the planets. You start to take it personally, and what happens is you react to the energy, whereas I prefer to respond to the energy. When I respond, it's on the understanding that I understand the energy that's going on out there, and I'm not frightened of it. It's my friend. And then I make best efforts to align with the energy in a way that's most positive. So if there's something very stressful with Pluto or Venus or whatever, and I'm aware of it, then I can take countermeasures in here and in here in terms of how I think, how I make my decisions, how I view my life and my world, and all the events that are going on around me. So I don't take it so personally, and then I can formulate a response. And a response is just a very neutral energy that is used to navigate most effectively, efficiently, harmoniously, and mostly in a loving way possible through the day. Okay? So, I don't know about some of you, but I kind of got a little bit overloaded with all the scary news going on. But you have to remember that human beings are always at war. America is always at war. We've been at war since the 1600s. Some way or another, there's war going on. It's still going on today. Long ago, there was, World War I, World War II, then the big communist Cold War, Vietnam War, the Crimean War, the Korean War, the Vietnamese, I think I said that one. And then everything moved over to the Middle East, and all about the oil for 20 years. And what is very, very kind of disturbing is after a while you start to scratch your head. What is going on here? And after a while, I started to feel, I started connecting all these dots, and I felt it was like, you know what? It's really simple. Pretend I'm a real kind of doofus, private eye, private detective, sleuth for hire, back in the 1950s, where all you had was a telephone and a gun and some notepads and an automobile and some intuition and a bunch of stories from a bunch of scary people who want your help. So the private eye kind of goes, I don't know if I can do this or not, but I have a hunch what's going on. Let me see if I can help. You need to put a deposit down, $1,000, and then I'll see you in a little while. I'm going to go out now. I'm going to get drunk. I'll start my job tomorrow. That's how it used to be in that world, as depicted on old television. But today, just like back then, my feeling, because I was studying all the world events from many different angles, and of course, at the very extreme, there's the conspiracy theorists And then there's the people at the other end where they're completely oblivious about what's going on. And there's a broad spectrum of everything in between. I like to look at it from all sides and then come up to a conclusion of my own. And when I was talking about that private eye from the 1950s, like pretend it's like some kind of dark, shadowy, black and white TV episodic show. And the private eye is like this. I don't know if I can help you, but I'll do what I can. You got to give me $1,000 now, and I'll take a look at it. And then you cut, and the customers, the clients, they'll disappear. They start moaning and groaning, and then the private eye goes into the bathroom. He takes a leak. He stands up. He looks at himself in the mirror and goes, "God, how'd I ended up in this situation? What a stinking, lousy job. I'm just a janitor, picking through other people's dirty laundry, cleaning up the scum. I'm sick of it. Anyway, I know what to do. Wink, wink. Follow the money." That's it. Follow the money, people. Well, today it's a much bigger story. It's follow the money, the power, the control. And put that all under one thing, and it becomes like Pluto. Pluto energy. It's about absolute power, absolute money, absolute control. That's when you start hearing these words like plutocrats and oligarchs and plutocracies and things like that. Autocracies, where you're talking about power taken to the extremes. Okay? And at the extremes, all they care about is power, money, and control. And so when you start to look at it, I was watching different news clips and I kept thinking, it's very interesting how this is all playing out. Oil prices across the world are skyrocketing 30-40%. Makes you wonder, huh? Yeah, that's good for a few people. Who benefits from this? The oil companies. They want to get back in control. The whole Middle East stuff is over. They can't do much more over there, so we got to find another way to jack up prices indiscriminately and bleed the masses. Ha ha ha. It's working perfectly. Gasoline in California right now, it's what, about $7? That's insane for America. Over in Las Vegas, here it's about $4. About 3 months ago, gasoline in California was like $4.50, and Las Vegas it was like $2.50. So you can see. Can you imagine? You're living your life, and all of a sudden, the price of oil and gasoline goes through the roof. Now, did you get a 30% rate hike in your income, your day job, or your investment plans, or anything like that? Chances are no. So effectively, you are now poorer. I am poorer. Billions of people on Earth are now poorer. But the oil companies are like, this is great. We're just raking it in. It's awesome. So talk about dumbing things down, It's just business, man. It's just taking care of business. Pretend I'm one of the oligarchs. Pretend I'm one of the plutocrats and the totalitarian nutcases like Justin Trudeau and Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin and people like that. They've gone absolutely berserk. They've blown their heads are like blowing off the top because they're so maniacally obsessed with the new world order, creating new power, new structure, where they get to control all the buttons. It's mind-boggling. All right, let me go over here. I'm trying to I have to remind myself we're here to do readings. I don't think I have any bookings right now. I don't think I have anything. This might be a very short show this evening. Who knows? I just got to check something over here. I'm just going to check. Bear with me while I'm doing some homework to get the show running. No. Got nada. Okay. So, I guess I'll have to do kind of a reminder. This is Sunday Night Live mini readings by Tarot. And I like to do the live mini readings in front of everybody for a handful of people. Frequently we get bookings in advance, so that's very nice. I don't have anything right now, so the magic post-it notes are completely empty. There's several different ways people can book a reading live tonight right now. You can take your PayPal, let's just say you happen to have PayPal, and you can send money directly to my email here. This email says a little book about at yahoo.com. That's for people who have PayPal. They like to use it. I use it for almost everything in my life, for better or worse. There's another thing you can do where you can go to the, maybe on another device or something. You go over here. You go to terralumination.com. You find the donate page, you find the donate button, click the donate button, and that pulls up a payment processor as well. It happens to be with PayPal, and you can scroll down and use your debit and credit cards and all of that. And then there is the other way, the old-fashioned way for doing payments for readings and donations, is you use the Super Chat. Now the Super Chat, it's a little box, tiny little box, just below the typing place where you type in the chat. You click that box. That's the Super Chat box. It opens up a payment processor. It's like a square. It pops up on your screen, and you can swipe a debit credit card there as well. So there you go. That's how it all works. Right. So if it looks like it's going to... Did you ever see my little cute business cards? Isn't that cute? I'm very proud of these. I don't really use them much. Obviously, I don't get out and about as much as I probably should. I've been very, secretive or private about how I run my little business here, because it is a business in a way. But it's a cute little card, wouldn't you agree? I'll just let that sit there for a while. But anyway, if anybody wants to, you can do a mini reading this way. I have a few of these in my wallet, and if I'm in a situation, I could hand them to somebody. And then I have a number on the back for America if they want to reach me personally, if they're desperate, So there we go. I'll put this over here as a reminder. So I'll just leave that there. And now I'm just going to hang out with you guys for a little bit. I probably will end up going back and forth on the maps and the charts and everything. It's almost like, let's do it this way. It's almost like my head has reached saturation with what's going on right now, because we are at the actual Pluto return of the United States of America. This is it. It's been building up for 2 years. We're on it right now, and it's going to pass through over the next 2 years. So it's roughly a 4-year orb. I will explain the orb. Okay, let me do that. Just so that people understand what I'm talking about. Because, okay, let's say we're talking about the sun. Okay, there's the sun. It's transiting in Pisces right now. It's at about 15 degrees. So the sun entered Pisces in late February. We had the Pisces new moon on the 2nd of February. And it takes about 30 days, roughly, for the sun to transit through one sign, okay? So a while back, the sun was in Capricorn over the holiday season, okay? And then it went into Aquarius for 30 days, and now it's in Pisces for 30 days. And it will do that continuously. So you could say, what I'm trying to indicate here is that the orb of influence spreads a few degrees either side of the sun. So if you look at this very closely, I shall have to use something skinnier. If you look at this very closely, this would be 0 degrees Pisces here for the sun. 10, 15, 20, 30 degrees Pisces. Okay, so right now the sun is at about 15, roughly. So we're about halfway through. Now if you get really close up and you start breaking this all up into tiny little degrees, the orb of influence is usually about 2 or 3 or 4 degrees either side of the moment. So effectively, the sun is conjoined with Jupiter and Neptune, and it's like maybe a better way to illustrate it is like this. I'll just make a doodle. It really helps when you understand the orbs of influence. Then you also understand that astrology is not like highly mechanical experience. It's a very subjective, almost surreal experience. So there's the westernized astrology chart. Let's say this is Aries, 0 degrees, and this is the sun, and we're going through the sign of Aries, okay? All right, now let me flip it. It's kind of like a wave effect. So as the sun moves through Aries, for example, which is going to happen in a few weeks, the sun moves through here, but as it moves through, it has a sort of wave like this of energy. This is what's called the orb of influence. Now this little orb here moves with the sun. If you place the sun right in the middle here, and then it's going to be over here. So when it happens, the orb of influence is going to be over here. Then it's going to move over here, and then it's going to move over here. It's a continuous process. I'm just doing 3 little blobs, but it's actually continuous. The point I'm trying to make is this effect here. So it's like you feel the power here. It peaks here and softens up here as it moves through each degree. Okay? Now, for the sun, it takes roughly 30 days to move 30 degrees. So the orb of influence is like 1 or 2 or 3 degrees on each side, whatever degree this is here. So so that takes a couple of days. But now if we do the same thing, sorry, this is Aries. This is the symbol for Aries, okay? I'm just very simplified. And this is the sun, okay? I'm just making symbols here. Now, if we do the same thing for Pluto, let's go over here to Scorpio. Right. Let's say this is Scorpio, because Scorpio is represented by Pluto. Actually, I probably better do it through Capricorn. Anyway, Pluto moves very, very slowly. So the orb of influence, let's say it's Pluto 0 degrees Scorpio. That orb of influence, instead of just taking a few days, it takes years. Okay? So when I'm talking about Pluto in Capricorn over here at 27 degrees Capricorn, it's taken several years to get from 23, 24, 25, 26, 27 degrees Capricorn. And it's going to take another several years to get from 27 Capricorn to 0 degrees Aquarius. So this little orb here, this orb of influence here, I'm trying to illustrate it like it's a little wave. This takes years. This is taking roughly 4 years. And this takes roughly 3 or 4 days, okay? So as you can see, there's a vast, vast difference in the way the planets express and share their energy. So you've probably seen, if you've been with my channel for a while, you've seen me write this pattern over and over for years now, because Pluto has been roughly here. And we're going to keep drawing it like this for a couple more years, okay? And so it feels like it's moving very slowly. In other words, why are the same storylines being talked about over and over and over for years and years and years? And just like they're repeating themselves, where they're not actually repeating themselves. At the core theme, yes, they are repeating themselves. I wrote my book about this period years ago, and everything is panning out perfectly. We had a massive global financial crisis, the seed planted in January 2020, when Pluto was roughly here, and everything is just turning into a massive global crisis. It is global. Back in 1776, the crisis was the United States and Britain. Now it's everywhere in the world with everywhere in the world. A lot of it is internal. The biggest challenges for the United States right now are internal. Okay? The big enemy for the United States is now within. The enemy within. Anyway, let me go back over here for a second. The point I was trying to make with the orb of influence is that with Pluto, it's a very, very long, slow-moving experience. And it carries the same energy over and over and over again. And the energy field changes very slowly. And sometimes we don't notice it unless we have what are called hard aspects, like the 90-degree square angle, or the powerful conjunctions, for example. For example, when the Ukraine war started over there a few weeks ago, Mars was coming towards Pluto, and it got there, violence exploded, and it was fully declared as a war at the very moment that Mars was conjoined with Pluto. When Mars conjoins Pluto, whatever sign, there's always the potential for extreme violent outbreak. It's about uncontrollable power. There are people who are born, of course, with Pluto in Capricorn. Yo! Thank you, Karen! Got it. I'll get you your magic post-it note any minute now. Hi, Tina. Hello, Path. I didn't see you guys arrive. I was doing one of my seminars. That's a good way to call it. Cheers, everybody, by the way. I feel very lucky because I feel very safe and protected and insulated here in Las Vegas. It's kind of like being in a bunker over here. Like, I said it in the book, protect your money, protect your privacy, protect yourself. That's what I'm doing. Because I have to live by example. I'm living by my own words. I'm living by the book that I wrote and the themes that I see projected for at least 15, 20 years to come. And what we're looking at on a global scale is massive, massive upheaval. Revolutionary changes in the way that human beings relate to each other. For the very first time in history, it was established and documented about a healthy way for humans to relate with themselves and each other and their neighbors. And that was documented in what is called today the American Constitution. And since that document was written, almost every other country on earth has created a charter document that is similar to ours. The only main difference is that we in America give ourselves permission to bear arms against our enemies, both foreign and domestic. But otherwise, everything kind of matches up. We want to be individual. We want the rights to our sovereign selves. We want freedom of speech. We want freedom of press. We want to live in truth. We want to be loving. We want to be loved. We want to honor and respect our environment. And we want honest money. Of course, everything that I just said is now in deep jeopardy. fake money, fake news, fake information, fake leaders. And they're behaving that way because they can, because we let them, because we gave them the power to do that. They're very smart. The elites are very, very smart because they are very smart. And they consolidate all their brains and their power to their advantage. The very biggest corporations, they say they want to take care of you and serve your needs, but ultimately they serve your needs in order to serve their needs. Well, it's business. You got to be profitable. What's that about Reno? George Orwell. That was give me a second. Hold on. Andrea, right? Okay, hi Andrea. You're not too worried. You're in Reno, and you moved around a bunch with your fiance, and you were in California. You left in 2020. You've been on the road ever since. On the road ever since. Wow, 2 years. Wow. I gave up on California in 2020. It was a very, very bumpy transition to get from California to Nevada. It's a completely different life, a completely different world here. And sometimes I get sentimental for Los Angeles and my life in movies and TV, but it's basically history now. All right, hold on. Elizabeth, how do you get a reading? Oh, well, okay. Well, in case you're... hold on, Elizabeth, let me just take care of Karen here a second. Hi, Karen, thank you so much. Cheers. Karen Clark wants a mini reading about career matters. Okay, I'll put a little note here, career. Okay, that's 10th house energy. Okie doke. So I'll put that over here. Elizabeth, if you want a reading, if you can't organize the payment things tonight, I can help you out later because I can sort it out with you by email or text or however you want to do it. So let's just say you've got a booking for a reading. And it will be done with, either the Super Chat or PayPal or Tarot Lumination donation, something like that. Okay, so I can sort that out with you later. Okay, don't worry, Elizabeth. You will get your mini reading. There we go. Oh, Tina is asking an interesting question. Well, I will give you my personal thoughts on that matter, if you don't mind, Tina. Actually, let me get another board here, see if I can help you so I can put some names on it. Okie dokie. What's happening right now in Ukraine is actually being pretty well monitored by some of the major American news outlets. Okay, the main ones, these are all part of the elite. These are all part of a globalized new world order, but there's a lot of consistency I've noticed between the places where I don't normally look and the places where I do normally look. So the normal places you can go are ABC News, CBS, NBC, MSNBC. You can go to CNN. You can go to Reuters. You can go to Associated Press. And, anywhere you want on YouTube, okay? Now, the places where I'm looking, where I find the most up-to-date and most neutral and the most penetrating and the most accurate accurate news, I'm finding it mostly from Europe. There is a place called DW News. Now this is sort of like a German PBS, public broadcasting, public news source. Some of it's funded by the United States, and it's an English language report from Germany. And they are very close to the action, okay? There's DW News. There's also WION, World is One News. World is One News, okay? WION, that is actually from India. Okay, I'll put that over here. Germany, India, and they have an English-speaking news channel. The reason I like it is because India is very big. They have 1.3 or 4 billion people there, and they're very democratic. They're very, very vocal. They like freedom of speech, and they like to deliver freedom of speech. And WION is English speaking, and they are staying very close to it because there's quite a few people from India in the Ukraine. There's another place that I like. It's called France 24 News, and it's from France. And it is an English-speaking section of their channel. They are very close. They are very up-to-date. Then, what was the other place that I like? Give me a second. I've got a few more places where I like to go. And let me see if I can... I've got to see if I can remind myself, because I've been looking at a lot of different sources, and that's the one I want. Radio Free Europe. Okay, they have been very, I would say, useful. And the BBC, that's the British Broadcasting Corporation, that's from England. They are very consistent. The other one I'm enjoying, honestly, is Fox. Fox News USA. They are working very hard to stay on top of it. And the other one I like is Sky News. And they're based in Australia. So right now, off the top of my head, there's a bunch of fake news people out there as well, so you've got to be careful, okay? Be very, very careful. There's a fellow from Turkey called Gezen, this fellow here, Gezen Oyuncu, Oyuncu. This fellow is a Turkish lad who is doing everything he can to stay on top of the news. He filters through a lot of news and then condenses little segments onto his channel. So it's very useful, okay? I'm going to tuck this away now. Put myself back over here. So it looks like you're already doing as well as I know how to do. So these are my picks. This is mostly I get my news from here. I get my news from here for pretty much all the world. But the thing about these particular channels is that they are English-speaking channels outside of the United States. So, and I don't really speak other languages. And Tina noted agenda free. Yes, in general, all these channels here, you can find them on YouTube. You can find these on YouTube, but these are mostly mainstream media where you would see stuff on television in America. This is the big propaganda stuff, okay? Propaganda, 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 okay? And there's more. There's like the Washington Post, the New York Times, and things like that. Those are all part of a... I don't do it, put it this way, I don't do anything on Google itself or Facebook or Twitter itself. They are all heavily associated with the elites. Put it this way, everything is simple right now in black and white with the Pluto energy. All of these are part of the global conglomerates for global media. They have an agenda, okay? They have a certain specific agenda to make the story of the war look a certain way for their benefit. Over here, it's a little different. They are mostly just reporting news as observers and then just sending it to their news stations and then we watch it, okay? Elizabeth, I see your note there. You want to pay for today, please. Okay, well, all right, let me go back again. So, Elizabeth, so... Give me a second here. Hi, Elizabeth. You want to pay for today, please? Well, what I was trying to tell you is that if the technology is too complicated, I can help you out later. We can connect by email and so on. But if you want to do something tonight, there's several different ways. Number one is the super chat. Now, as I've said before, this if you look where you're typing on the chat, just below where you type in the words, there's a little gray box. Tiny little gray box about this big. You click that box, it has a $sign, and it pops up on your screen. It will pop up what's called a payment processor. It's just like doing online shopping at Amazon or eBay, or you're paying your bills online or something. And you just go through it, you put in a credit card, debit card, and go clickety-click, and it's done. So that's the super chat. And the money comes directly here to the channel, and it will show up on the screen, just like it did with Karen. Karen Clark used super chat. It's live, it goes through YouTube and Google. The other thing you can do, Elizabeth, you can, if you have PayPal already, you could send, $10 or something over here to my email, a little book about at yahoo.com. Or if you like to use the processors and you've got another device or something like a phone or a laptop or a tablet while you're watching the show, you can go to terralumination.com. Click the donate page, click the donate button, and you'll get another payment processor. And it's the same thing, really. It goes through PayPal, and you can scroll down and select to use a debit card, credit card. You swipe it, and then that will show up here on my emails. Okay? So that's how that works. Okay? Don't bother, precious. You're all you need to be... Okay. Handball Nathan Vom Red. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry, handball. Tina, by the way, sometimes these are the ones that are off the top of my head. I will flick. I do all of it on YouTube. I flick through other things if they pop up and they look very, very relevant. But these are my primary sources. These are my personal primary sources here. They're just literally reporting the news. That's it. These are all, you can find all of these on YouTube. You don't have to go to a website or anything. These are the other ones. These are the big ones in America. Sometimes I'll click on these. especially Fox. Fox actually is part of this world, but they have an agenda that matches my agenda or my belief system. So understand, Fox is part of the big global media network, okay? But because I'm more in tune with their agenda, it comes under this side of my viewing. All of these here, these are part of the elites. It's part of the global cabal. All of this is scripted and controlled by the big corporations and the governments, okay? It looks like news, and a lot of time it's very useful, handy news, but it is scripted, and it is controlled, and it is moderated. These are not part of any elite. Well, the BBC is, yes, I should say BBC. Yeah. The reason I like the BBC is because they pride themselves at getting to the bottom of the news. Even though they are very, let's say, I would say left-wing in their agenda, but I still like them because they're very, very good at what they do. Okay? Elizabeth, you can pay later. We will sort things out. Agendai. Oh, yeah. Who's Steve? He is really good. Steve comes on once a day and he filters through the current info and traces the sources. That's handy. Saves having to do your own homework. It's nice when people do the filtering. I've found there's a couple of people who do filtering and some of it is really bogus, so be careful. All right, now sorry, I had to do something in my desk here. All right, so thank you for asking, Tina, and maybe other people notice this and they can help themselves as well. Okay? I'll put this on the side for the moment. So Elizabeth, like you said, don't worry. You will pay later, and I will help you work through the system so you don't have to worry about it tonight, right now, live. All right. So it looks like we don't have a lot of bookings this evening. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with Karen over there in New Zealand. She wants to get some insight on career. And after that, we will do a reading for Elizabeth. Okay? And if anybody has something that they need to vent, help yourselves, we can type it in the chat and give me a little alert, and we'll see if we can help things along. So I'm going to put all this stuff aside. I'll probably have to come back to this, okay? Come back to this. Come back to this. We'll do that later. I'm going to put this over here. Tuck that over here. I'm going to put all these over here. And we're going to do some readings. I don't need this over here. I'm going to put the pens away for now. Cheers, everybody. Thank you for your, what's the word? Your companionship. I really enjoying. Oh, you bought a booking? Oh, sorry, I didn't see that, Gregory. Let me go back over here, and I can just go scroll over there. Blah, blah, blah. I'm just doing techie stuff. There it is. Okay, got it. Thank you, sir. And I'm going to head back over here. So I've got another booking. That's Mr. Ross. Here we go. Steve is agenda-free TV. It's one guy. Oh, I didn't know that. Let me make a note. I'm going to put that on my little, my notes, my list here. Where did that go? Thank you, Tina. I'm very interested. Where did I put it? I had a whole list of channels. Ooh. Maybe it was this one here. Yeah. You can never have enough clipboards, I tell you. Okay, it's not on there. What the heck is going on, people? Well, it's not this one. That's old stuff, but... Okay, I'm going to make a note here for myself. Thank you, Tina. That's one guy. Agenda-free TV. I'm going to make a note of that. Agenda-free TV. Okay, so I'll put this over here for later on. Thank you, Tina. We'll look into that for sure. And thank you, Gregory. Cheers, everybody. Blessed be TL. Yeah. Hey, y'all. All right, so let's have a look here. Well, that's a lot of Cancerian energy. Aquarius Sun, the Cancer Moon, and Cancer Rising. Okay. So you're probably very intuitive by nature and very unique and perhaps quirky from the perspective of other people in your world, in your community. Aquarians have an uncanny aspect to their nature where it doesn't matter how conventional you are or what kind of society you live in, they have a strong energy of being like unique or memorable in some way, because they literally, what's that saying they have about Aquarians? They march to the tune of their own drum. That's it. And they're probably the least likely to follow conventions because Aquarians it's ruled by Uranus, so it's the planet of uniqueness, let's say, almost like the energy of magic, the energy of science. Okay, let's see. Oh. Hold on. So, Karen, we're going to work with you first. I got some notes there from Tina. I just want to look at that because I'm still buzzing. Okay. So, I just want to let you know that over here, as expected, with the planets the way they are aligned right now, which is exactly how they are illustrated on the astrodoodle, my astrodoodle, a lot of this stuff affects me very personally, okay? And so I have to make extra efforts to not take it personally. So I just observe things in a neutral way, kind of like Tina was saying, no agenda. But it's actually hard to do because the energy of the planets can tend to move you or shift you this way, because it is all about gravity. And the idea is to maintain your posture, maintain your integrity, maintain your equilibrium no matter what. Sometimes it's hard to do, especially when the planets are affecting you very specifically in very personal ways. Let's say you, whoever you are, have huge aspects in your own personal chart regarding Capricorn in the high degrees, let's say 26 degrees. chances are you've been dealing with some really profound, slow-moving issues for years now, and it's still dragging on. How do you not take that personally? Well, it's very hard to do, but anyway. So yeah, look at my note. Would I be willing to do a reading for the people of Ukraine? Yeah, sure, I will pay. Oh, okay, yeah. That would be nice. It'll just be a simple mini reading. But yeah. Okay. There's another note over here from Tina. She's puzzled about one thing. Is Ukraine actually getting the aid they are promised? And what happens if someone brings aid into Ukraine and gets fired on? Well, from what I can tell, from my observation, Ukraine is receiving lots of aid in a very Aquarian, humanitarian type of gesture. The Aquarian theme is very powerful right now, for better or worse. So, from what I can tell, most of the aid coming to Ukraine, a bunch of it is coming from what's called USAID, USAID. That's from America. And apart from actually shooting and killing Russians, America is providing aid in terms of military support, finance, and so on. But most of Western Europe is providing the bulk of aid because Western Europe is terrified of what's happening, and they really, really want to help Ukraine because Ukraine is kind of the buffer between Russia and Europe. And, oh, look who's here. It's little Bubba. Hi, Bubba. From what I can tell, the aid is being received. There's lots of money pouring in, lots of food, resources, tents, what do they call? Like, they're taking lots of buildings, like colleges, universities, and they are converting them into humanitarian shelters, refugee centers. That takes a lot of time and money and energy, okay? And I believe it's happening. The outpouring and the generosity is wonderful. It's beautiful to see. And it's because it can happen now on a global scale. It's mind-boggling. That didn't used to happen. 10 years ago, you couldn't have done this. There's a lot of private aid going on as well. There are a lot of people in Ukraine who have connections and family and relations and blood all over the world, especially Western Europe, but also, Canada, America, Australia, New Zealand, India. And the internet is proving to be very powerful. People are using things like cryptocurrencies and PayPals and so on to send personal money to friends and family. It's helping. But down on the ground in Ukraine itself, that's a whole other story because even though there's probably, I think, over 500,000, I think they're up to about 1 million people have already escaped Ukraine as refugees. But Ukraine has millions and millions of people, and a lot of them are stuck. And they're going to be stuck. And they're still receiving random civilian attacks from the Russian troops. And the Russian troops basically have no concern for morality or human life or, let's say, international rules of war. Russians are doing some of the most barbaric things, and it's all because of Putin. And the idea is to kill. It's literally the idea. It sounds disgusting, but they are deliberately targeting homes, hospitals, schools, civilian residents, apartments. The idea is to terrify people. And they don't care about killing those people. The idea is to create terror and fear and get everybody running to leave Ukraine. Putin has already said, you can't believe anything because he's a professional liar. He basically said, I will stop the battle right now if everybody in Ukraine stops fighting me. I don't know what to tell you. I think the bulk of the aid is coming from individuals and smaller organizations in Western Europe. Like you said, Tina, a lot of stuff is getting tied up in U.S. red tape. There's the United States, there's NATO, which is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and it's embarrassing to watch because they are not doing, they don't want to get their hands dirty. This is already a global conflict. It affects everybody on Earth. And NATO and the United States are very closely entwined. There's the European Union and all of that. There's United Nations and all of that. The way I look at it, this is going to sound really disgusting, but America, the administration in the United States today, they want this war. They need this war. It is a big cover for what's happening with the trucker rally, with corporate prices, with banking, the global banking system. It's an effective way to demonize Russia and make everybody look over towards Ukraine while the United States is doing really despicable things to its own people. The rulers of the United States are doing despicable things to its own people. It's so disgusting that they can't afford to have any conversation about it. So they need this war. I don't want to get locked into this. It's too scary, okay? Arms are being sent into Ukraine, mostly from England and Germany, Poland, and the Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Finland, Sweden. All of that's happening. Oh, Bubba. Bubba wants to say hello. Meow. Here's Bubba. Oh, I hope you can see him. He's getting wiped out by the green screens. Hey, Bubba. Anyway, I have to put Bubba down because we're doing a show. All right, so yeah, I will do a group reading, okay? I'll do a reading for Ukraine, and that'll be it. I won't be able to handle it anymore. Ukraine. All right, so let's have a look here. Put this over here. So Elizabeth, we'll sort you out later on, but this is going to be the show tonight. We're going to do a reading for Karen, reading for Elizabeth, one for Gregory, and one for Ukraine. Tina is sponsoring a reading for Ukraine. Thank you, Tina Miller. All right, let's begin. But first of all, there we go. Excellent. Cheers, everyone. All right. Here we go. All right, Karen, let's have a look. Let's get on with things, okay? Yeah, that was a little Bubba. Well, thank you, Gregory, but these days it's actually $3 Chuck. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's $3.50 chuck. It's probably soon going to be $4 chuck, the way things are going in the world. Is your income rising as fast as the inflation rate? No. I saw some stickers for gasoline prices in California, especially Los Angeles. You're looking at $7. All right, Karen. Now, just to get everybody up to speed here, I'm just going to do a little tiny quick mini reference. It's the end of summer for Karen. Karen is very lucky because she's in New Zealand and you're heavily insulated from the rest of the world simply because of the distance. It's thousands of miles from New Zealand just to get to Australia, let alone to get from New Zealand to America or Europe. Okay? So anyway, Karen is over here and we're going to do a reading for Karen Clark in New Zealand, transmitting live from Las Vegas, Nevada, right here. There you go. Let's see what this looks like. Now, we want some notes. What kind of information, what kind of notes do we have for Karen Clark here tonight regarding career? Some of you know already that Karen Clark is very active in the local arts community with some of the Maori culture, Maori crafts. And she, let's say, kind of represents the culture in her neighborhood, her part of New Zealand. And she has other art associates up in the north of New Zealand as well, like an arts community. Okay? Right, let's bless this deck. Bless every single card. I don't do jumpers, flyers, reversals, or anything like that. I keep it ultra super simple. I use the same old situational spread that I've been using for years. I've done thousands of readings, personal, private, and public. Big readings, little readings. But tonight, these are just little mini readings. But they can be very illuminating. Okay, what kind of messages do we have here tonight for Karen regarding the loose term of career? Okay? Career covers a lot of things, like life ambition, life direction, and like a sense of meaning and purpose and destiny, bringing that to this world. Here's the situation, here's the challenges, and here's how we're going to handle it. Let's have a look at the external influences. Of course, as usual, I default to the planets, but who knows what else comes up. Karen is in a very active community. She's got friends and family over there. Let's have a look, see what's going on. So, the Emperor. So, this is a very unambiguous kind of energy where it's like, have you ever heard this expression, Karen, like regarding emperor energy? It's like there's nothing. I mean, my brother used to talk about this to me when he was trying to educate me when I was a child. My brother is super ultra successful and smart, and I'm not quite that way myself. I'm intuitive and artistic and everything, but business, that's a different thing. But anyway, what my brother was trying to teach me is that the most effective way of ruling and controlling and running a country or a business is embodied with what he calls the benevolent dictator. In other words, It's very simple. There's no ambiguity. Let's just say I happen to be the benevolent dictator and I'm the emperor. In other words, everything's great so long as it's great. In other words, I, the emperor. I'm making this a little bit personal, Karen, because I don't know if there's some kind of like super extreme hyper male influence around you right now, which is making it very difficult for you to navigate your career. It could be, I'm just going to touch on a couple of storylines that I'm sensing here. So with the emperor, it's an indication that you may be getting influenced by the energies of absolute. The emperor energy is absolute. In other words, like, if I like you and I decide you're awesome and you're my buddy, you're going to get treated like royalty, just like me. On the other hand, you betray me and I will cut off your head. And I won't even apologize. Okay? So, it's very, very... Emperor energy is very black and very white. It's great when it works, and it's really bad when it flips. In other words, you do not want to be on the wrong side of the emperor because it can be extremely painful. If you happen to be on the right side of the emperor, it can be very enjoyable. The emperor is completely unconcerned about, let's say, the impact of his decisions or behaviors. In other words, let's say, I don't like you anymore, I'm going to shoot you. That's it. I don't care. All right, there we go. The emperor energy, it's kind of like the energy of a dictator. And it's great when it works, and it's horrific when it doesn't work. Now, you could almost say that this is like the Putin energy right now, or you could say this was the extreme energy of the planets in Capricorn, with Mars has conjoined a Capricorn. It's an extremely powerful energy field, and when Mars conjoins Pluto, it indicates the potential for extreme abuse of power, extreme violence. In other words, it's a very old-fashioned form of power. In other words, if I don't like you anymore, I'm just going to kill you. If I have a problem with you, I'm going to kill you. It's really simple. And if everyone else notices, like, wow, this guy is freakish. Like, if anyone disagrees with the emperor, then you could be dead. You could be disappeared. So I'm going to be nice. So that system works well up to a point, but it's extremely claustrophobic. And it's basically the rule of terror, rule of fear. Now, because it's like the energy of hyper-male, hyper-masculine energy. I don't know if there is a particular male influence in your life that is making it very, very difficult for you to navigate your life and your career. In other words, everything's great. You're Karen Clark, and you can do anything and everything you want managing your career and life, so long as it gets the approval of the emperor. Okay, let's say the emperor approves. Fine. And then you go off and do a bunch of stuff, and suddenly the emperor is displeased with you, and all of a sudden your next stage, your next step in your career is completely demolished or blocked or obstructed, and you just can't go there because the emperor said so. And if you cross the emperor, it's trouble. So I'm making makes it sound like it's very, very personal. And this emperor energy doesn't even have to be conscious. You might be experiencing this as external energy, perhaps on a global scale, like there are things happening on a global scale with like hyper extreme male energy, hint, hint, like the Ukraine crisis, which is changing the way everybody in New Zealand operates in order to do business and conduct life. You might be living under this is hyper-masculine energy. I know you have a leader in New Zealand who is very female, Jacinda Ardern, but she does behave very much like an emperor. Do as I say, don't necessarily do as I do. She operates very much as an emperor. She was a media darling a couple of years ago when the virus went all over the world, and she said, oh, we're going to fix this. We're just going to lock down the whole country. We're not even going to get infected. Well, things have changed since then. And she has shown her true colors since then. I don't know if you are affected by New Zealand politics or by Jacinda in person or as a political cloud over New Zealand, or if there is somebody in your network of career and business who is behaving like an emperor. In other words, absolute power and control, as if they own you and control you. That's not good. It's great when it works, but it sucks when it doesn't. Okay, let's have a look. What's the situation itself? Okay, it makes me feel as that you're at a loss about what to do, because to me it feels like the whole ability for you to project and manifest your life, your world, your career in a way that makes sense to you. Let's say you radiate Queen of Cups energy, which is an energy of rich, loving abundance. And the real issue is how exactly am I going to disperse and distribute my loving energy? And this could be highly contrary to you, to Emperor energy. In other words, let's say you have certain ambitions, desires, directions, goals that can be achieved, that should be achieved, but there's some kind of very, very serious obstruction, which makes you question well, this doesn't make any sense. How on earth am I supposed to evolve and grow and, let's say, share the healing power of love in the way that I share it through my craft, my business, my career? Because as some of you know, Karen is very artistic, and that would be part of the career path, the nature of the career. To me, it looks like there's a big question mark here. What on earth am I supposed to do when I am continuously subject to the random whims and impositions of an external energy that is not me, it's not mine? Let's see what's the problem here. Okay, so with the High Priestess energy here, I like to cover the B and the J. I just like to look at the High Priestess. So, to me, it looks like this is an expression of extreme Neptune energy. We're talking about mysteries, fog, illusion, delusion, misinformation, lack of information, secrecy, privacy. To me, it looks like the problem is in such a way that it's impossible for you to figure out how to navigate and manifest your career, because there are several or multiple unknown factors, almost like a secret hidden agenda that's going on behind your back. Well, I think we've talked about this before loosely, where you are part of this arts community based up in Auckland, and they want good things to happen for you and for New Zealand, but the way they see it is very different from the way you see it happening. And so there's this kind of clash. And with the High Priestess energy, it makes me feel as though you are being held hostage by secrecy. In other words, they're doing whatever they want to do, however they want to do it. And yes, let's say you're part of the equation, but you don't have any idea of how they make their decisions or what their ultimate agenda is. And so you are constantly left in the dark, which makes it, impossible to navigate. How can you, set your own path, sail your own ship, set your own agenda, live your own life, manifest your own career when you are living at the mercy of someone else or some other people or some other institution? Okay? That's very, very hard to do. You might be very well-meaning, Karen, and I believe that you are, and you come from a very rich, warm, pure heart type of energy, but it's very hard to make the best of that if there are, let's say, secret agendas going on that are not really in alignment with what is good for you personally. Okay? Let's have a look. How are you going to deal with this, Karen? This looks very, very awkward. It looks like very big energy, but very hard to deal with energy. Let's have a look. Solutions here. Okay. I don't think you're going to like my first immediate response here. It's almost like you're better off without them. I don't know if that means anything to you. Whether it's a person or a group of people or the team. Because the Emperor energy does not operate as a team. The Emperor is completely and utterly self-serving energy. So whether that's if there's an individual in your life, or whether that's the arts group up in Auckland or whatever it is, or some kind of external influence, they have literally no concern for you personally. As far as they're concerned, you're an appendage or you're an accessory to their agenda. And if you don't follow their agenda, it's not going to work. So you end up in a very awkward position. Like, what's the point in being associated with, a team if it's not healthy or good for you and you're constantly being undermined? I see this as very powerful Neptune energy, where you think you saw the more and more you try to solve a problem, the more and more the problem becomes bigger and insoluble. And you end up in a point of disappointment. Now, this is going to sound a little bit negative. I'm not trying to scare you. But we are living in a Pisces season right now. Sun is conjunct Jupiter and close to Neptune, all in Pisces. And wherever Pisces Neptune energy lives in your chart, in your life, in the world, there's always the potential for great losses, sadness, disappointment, tragedy, frustration, confusion, derangement, delirium, sickness, disease, perversion, failure, losses. At the same time is not even understanding how or why. Tragedy is very common with this kind of alignment here. It's very difficult to operate under those conditions. It's beautiful when it works. Absolutely beautiful. But it is so hard to make that happen because most human beings do not operate 100% purely from love. So you end up in a very, very sort of... Have you ever had that experience, Karen? It's just like this... the only way I can do it is just like... I'm not talking about how you have a breakdown or anything like that, but with the Eight of Cups here, it makes me feel like there's this cumulative energy of constantly putting in love, 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 and love, and then receiving an indication like, oh, this is so great, and then realizing, from the world around you or your team or your environment, like, oh, no, it's not quite right. So you end up in a state, in a situation of disappointment, where it's very hard to understand the disappointment. You might feel betrayed, undermined, or disrespected, or misunderstood. And it gets to the point where it accumulates and accumulates, and you don't go explosive. You don't go like, oh, fuck you. None of that. It just ends up as this sort of like, this sort of like, why did I bother? Why did I bother with these people? How did I get into this situation with these people? My feeling is that there's something outside you, around you. I think it's a team or a person where you kindly offer your love anyway. You love anyway, but it's not reciprocal. Okay? If it's not reciprocal, then you end up in this negative feedback loop, which perpetually always leads back to tragedy, loss, failure, disappointment. It doesn't have to be really gruesome, but when you have lots and lots and lots of little disappointments all in a row, it can be very demoralizing, and you lose your sense of hope, and so on. And sometimes, and you get to the point where, like, oh, what's the point? I've had enough time, I've had an experience to realize that this is futile. Well, like, why be loving? Why should I be loving? Doesn't make any sense. Why should I allow for this to happen? So when I see the Eight of Cups, in terms of this mini reading here, you're not going to like this, Karen, but it makes me feel as though you might want to consider a change of situation where you can still be you, but you no longer operate or allow yourself to operate under an umbrella of totalitarianism that's coming from outside of you. Because ultimately, that's self-destructive. The only way they have power over you is if you allow that to happen. So if you withdraw, then they no longer have power over you. Okay, and then you're looking at a huge question mark. Well, what am I supposed to do now? You know? Well, we're not there yet. Okay? You have to live in the now. You have to live in the present. So what this reading is indicating to me, to indicate to you, is to understand the full scope of your situation, where no matter how much love and care and compassion you might contribute to the equation, it's not reciprocal. And you get to the point where all that's happening is depletion. And that's not healthy. That's not healthy for you. Be loving, be loved. Number one, love thyself. If you continue to allow yourself to be abused, that's not loving thyself. You might feel that there's benefits to being part of a something or other that's so-called bigger than you, but ultimately, if it's not in alignment with being loving and being loved, then it's not good. And so you end up with this heartache. You invested so much, and then it comes to this. So, it's not the end of the story, we're just at a chapter, okay, Karen? I think the imagery here is very powerful anyway, because look at the moon, okay? Very Cancerian. You said Cancerian rising, I think, and Cancer moon. I think that's what you said. I can't remember. So there you go, Karen. This is a bitter, sad reading, and I'm sorry to say, but perhaps it's a good idea that we actually did this live in person tonight, right now, so that you have witnesses, okay? It's not the end of the world. It's just a reality check, okay? Elizabeth, you're up next. Then we have Gregory, and then we're going to do the Ukraine reading. Okie dokie. Yes, it is. Okay, let's put it that way. Look at it that way. You depersonalize it. Karen just wrote in there on the notes. It's very difficult to make decisions with so much uncertainty. Well, absolutely. All right, Elizabeth. JB Shin 1989. Hello. Hello, JB Shin. Hello, Jeffrey. Gabrielle. Yalson Kaya. I hope I said that right. Hello, Gabrielle. Afternoon, y'all. It sounds like you're from the South, over in the United States of America, y'all. All right, Elizabeth, if you don't mind, I'll just do a blind reading for you. On the other hand, if you have one particular subject, everybody needs to know. I just want to let you know, I've known Elizabeth personally for a long time, probably 8 or 10 years or so, okay? What about moving? Oh, okay, we can deal with that. All right, let's just see what kind of messages do we have here for Elizabeth tonight. She's a little bit concerned about moving. Karen says, thank you, I needed the reality check, TL. Okay, well, it might not have been a very pleasant reality check, but when you have Pluto conjoined Mars and Venus, then there is going to be a reality check of some kind, and it might be very painful. But we need to know. Okay, Elizabeth is considering moving. Now, that's a very big deal. Moving locations, because that's very grounded, very, very earthy thing. When we live somewhere, our whole life is conducted from the place where we sleep to the world outside, where we leave the front door and go out into the streets and the world beyond, to a grocery store, a cafe, a bus stop, friends or family or neighbors, or a walk, or something like that, going to visit, or going to places of employment or places of meetings. It starts from where you sleep. All right, let's have a look. Good evening, Elizabeth Boucher. All right. I think we did the blessing for these cards earlier, but let's do it again. Let's bless these cards, every single card in the deck. I don't do reversals, flyers, jumpers, or anything like that. I use the most simple situational spread, a little Tarot Lumination custom spread. It's a diagnostic tool. It just helps to just gently peel off the layers and obstructions and the bandages that we cover ourselves in our lives to protect our wounds. But you got to reveal it to heal it. So that's kind of what we do here. It's a diagnostic tool. Elizabeth is pondering the idea of moving. Let's have a look. All right, let's see what's going on here. Okay, I'm doing a very extreme cut to make sure I have a very clear spread for you. Okay, Elizabeth, here we go. Here's the situation. Here's the challenges. Here's how we're going to handle it. And here are the surrounding influences. Of course, as usual, I often default to the planets, but it could be something else. Let's just see how the story unfolds. Okay, the sun. Okay, my first impression, Elizabeth, it's very important right now that you give yourself permission to be happy. The most important thing is to understand that you have the right to be happy. It is your duty to love thyself. It's the hardest thing to do on earth, is to love thyself. Now, that might not make sense because there's all sorts of like megalomaniacs, egomaniacs, narcissists who I would say they don't really love themselves. They're more like obsessed with themselves, and they're living in a very three-dimensional, highly claustrophobic world with very little awareness above and beyond their own biological reflexes. It's very myopic, claustrophobic, suffocating environment. And that's not good for you. Okay, Elizabeth? It's very different. What counts, what really, really counts, is being happy. Now, I'm not saying with the sun energy, it's your job to go and be happy. It's important to understand, how do you define happiness in your life, in your world? Are you happy where you are? Do you feel like you can continue to be happy where you are if you are happy? On the other hand, are you unhappy where you are? And if so, in a very simplistic energy, what are we going to do about it? If you are unhappy where you are, then where can you go? How can you be happy where you are? And so you get down to the issue of location. I've actually done a few readings for people regarding relocations. So with astrology, it's a real thing. But relocating is not often, it's easier for some people than others. It depends on individual circumstances. But you can move from one street to another street, or one neighborhood to another neighborhood. You can move from one town to another town, or in America from one state to another state, or in the world from one country to another country. That's all different forms of moving, and they all have different implications. But with the sun energy here, it's like an indication, like, let's get down to the absolute basics. Are you happy where you are? If not, does it make sense to move? If you decide, well, maybe we should look to move, then where? Okay? So in a way, it's a very simplistic reading. We haven't, okay, sorry, I'm not going to preempt the reading. Give me a second here. What's the situation itself? Okay, so we've got the Lover's card here. We've got two powerful cards right at the very beginning. When I see major arcana like this in a row, makes it feel like there's this powerful energy of fate, or energy feels that you can't really control right now. Like it's out of your control. You're observing your life like as though you have dissociated from yourself. So if you're in a situation right now with the Lover's card where you're starting to realize, wow, I have to make some very big decisions, or I feel like I have to make very big decisions because I am a very loving person and I deserve to be loved. Is that happening for me in my current location? In order for me to receive the love that I deserve, does that mean I have to perhaps move somewhere else, be physically somewhere else? Of course, those are huge decisions. Sometimes when you have lived in a place for a long time, everything starts to feel stale. What's that other expression? Familiarity breeds contempt. In other words, you've done everything, you've seen everything, you've had everything, you've been everything, you've lived a whole life already in one location. And you are finding that there is something very important that is lacking. And it triggers this idea, wow, I've already lived a life, okay? and yet there's still something missing, whatever it is, and it triggers this situation like, wow, it's so extreme. I have to actually consider the idea of completely moving in order to love and be loved, or just in order to learn how to love myself better, in order for me to be happier, because I deserve to be happy. But it is a monumental decision. For most people, it's actually a hugely disruptive thing to move from one place to another place, from one town to another town, from one apartment to another apartment, from one house to another house, from an apartment to a house, from one country to another country. It's a huge decision. It has huge implications. So it feels to me as though you're actually kind of almost overwhelmed with this idea at the moment. Now, for that to happen, it makes me feel here with your reading that really you just want to be happy. You know that you have a right to be happy. You deserve to be happy. And if there's a part of you that is not happy, and you've decided that after all of your best efforts, all of the life that you've lived, all of the relationships, benefits, and the good things about your current life, you still realize that it's not right. There's something wrong here. It's not good. I deserve more. I want more. I need more. I have to have more. Then you end up in a very black and white situation. Either I leave and start a new life, a location somewhere else, or I stay. If you stay, then you are going to have to live with the daily equation of every day. How am I going to be happy today, right now? Some people literally, they get bored, they get fed up, they feel like it's the end of the road. There's no more happiness. It's gone, it's finished, it's over. On the other hand, starting from scratch in a new location, even if it's just moving down the street, that can be extremely disruptive. Very, very high risk. What's the challenges here? Okay, with the Ten of Pentacles, it makes me feel like you might be feeling like there's no sense of family or home or benevolence or abundance in where you are right now. In contrast, there's an awareness that you have so much already. Okay? You have so much abundance already. And then your perception of being like deprived of love, deprived of happiness, is happening in an environment where in some ways you already have everything. You have so much already that millions, if not billions of people on earth would love to have. They would love to have what you have. And yet at the same time, for you personally, it may feel like you are deprived. It's like it's hollow, it's empty. In other words, what's the point in having everything that I have if I'm not happy? Very difficult equation. Cheers, Elizabeth. Thank you for reading, giving me a chance to read for you. How are we going to deal with this? Okay, with the Moon card, look at this reading, Elizabeth. Major Arcana, big, powerful card with wealth and abundance. Physical realities. And then another Major Arcana. how do you deal with this situation, okay, Elizabeth? My feeling right now is that you are in the grip of fear. Like you are in a situation right now where you are acutely aware of anything and everything that is unhappy about your life. Whether it's your health, your love life, your relationships, your finances, your sense of destiny, career, or purpose on earth. All of that is in jeopardy right now because you already have history. You've already lived a certain part of your life. And with the Pisces theme right now, it's very, very easy to become a victim of the shadows, a victim of fear, where you could be, let's say, motivated by fear. So I feel like the way to go forward is understand that what might be happening for you right now, the reason you bring up the subject of moving is because you have reached a kind of a crescendo, a breaking point where like, I freaking can't take it here anymore. I can't take it here anymore. And that's that. It doesn't matter what the tarot cards say. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of my life, my place, my location. I want to be happy. I deserve to be happy. I am very loving. I live by example. I share my love. I share my generosity. I am honest, direct, straightforward, true, and pure. And now I have to deal with this very difficult decision because like it might feel like you're up against the wall. So it might mean, when I see the moon card here, it's to understand that you might be heavily motivated right now by things like fear, anger, frustration, accumulated rage, and emotional, huge emotional surges that are just tempting you to go like, I don't care, I have to frickin' break out, I'm just gonna run. I don't care anymore. I don't care what kind of journey I have to take to get away from everything that's not working for me. Okay, so I'm going to go on to the second layer of the meaning here with the card. From my perspective for you, Elizabeth, is to understand that you might be in this very emotionally, very turbulent condition right now where perhaps that's a good thing. You know, you got to reveal it to heal it. So it's almost like, hey Elizabeth, hold on. When I see the moon card here for you on how to deal with things, the way I feel it is to understand that you might be at a kind of a breaking point right now where it's just literally, I don't give a fuck what what I have to deal with my contracts, my leases, my hospitals, my doctors, my friends, my location, my finances. I don't care anymore. I need to bust out. I'm going absolutely berserk here. Okay? Now, go back to the other card, the Ten of Pentacles. Then Tarot Illumination has to deliver this message like, hey Elizabeth, just a reminder that you're incredibly fortunate already. And that's a problem because you might not feel like it. You might feel like I don't care what you say, TL. I don't feel rich. I don't feel abundant. I don't feel blessed. I don't feel happy. I feel like shit. I just want to run. I just want to bust out. Okay, when I look at the planets, there's extremely hyper compressed energy right now. All the Capricorn stuff, all the Aquarius stuff, all the Pisces stuff. And without going into a deep dive analysis of your astrology and everything, all I can sense from the reading here is that you are being heavily triggered by your deepest fears, deepest emotions that are taking you to a breaking point. Like, I have to decide. I'm just gonna decide. Screw this, I'm out of here. I can't take it anymore. But do you see the problem? It's like it's being driven by fear, driven by emotions. I'm not saying that you have to force yourself to stay where you are. It's a question of understanding your situation in a very extreme way so that like you realize like, oh wow, I really am perhaps a victim of fear right now. And those things change and they come and go. They move very quickly, especially when it comes to the moon. Okay? The moon is in Taurus right now. Okay? And sometimes what that will do, especially Uranus is right there in Taurus as well. It could trigger like fantastical feelings of like emotional fireworks, like I'm going absolutely out of my freaking mind. You get to the point where you actually can't control it. In fact, the worst thing you could do is control it. In fact, the best thing is that you actually end up coming here, hanging out with us, getting a little mini reading from Tarot Lumination, and realizing like, oh, okay, I'm not insane after all. The way it looks to me with this reading, Elizabeth, is like your fuses are blowing. You're absolutely reaching a breaking point where you would love to find happiness now, just by making a decision like, I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm going to move. I'm going to go blah, blah here, or Canada, or Mexico, or, I don't know, Las Vegas. Where I don't care. I just want out of here. In order to reclaim your happiness, reclaim love, reclaim yourself. All I'm suggesting that with the moon card is that please understand that a lot of this is to do with feelings, where the feelings are so highly triggered where you might not be aware that you're being so heavily triggered. You need to be aware that you might be heavily triggered right now, but you need the perspective, because with the Lover's card there, it indicates it's a very, very big decision. If you just decide to leave because of just going berserk, I can't take it anymore, that could be written off as just a momentary episode because of the moon. You know, a couple of days. And a day from now you might be feeling like, you know what? It's not that bad. It's not that bad. So give yourself time. My feeling like is the emotions are highly charged right now. Moon in Taurus, Uranus in Taurus. Taurus heavily squared by Saturn and Mercury, communications and karma. Be very, very careful, okay, Elizabeth? We can talk about this another time, okay? Don't worry about it. Understand that just for right now, you might be in a almost like an explosive situation. Just like, I want out. I want out of here. We all go through that at some point. I do. Most people do. All right, here we go. Thank you. I hope that helps you, Elizabeth. We're going to move on now. We got a reading for Mr. Gregory Ross. Thank you again, Mr. Ross, for your kindness and generosity over the years. We've had a very enjoyable time doing readings together. I don't see why we shouldn't have that ongoing. I'm just going to shuffle things up here. Give me a second, Gregory. I just want a few moments where I can shuffle and top up my beverage at the same time. Thank you, Elizabeth. It's always a privilege to read for you. Okay? All right, here we go. You send me love. Thank you, Elizabeth. I send you love too. I had a couple of Taos. That's interesting. Taos. Gregory, are you saying Taos as a recommendation for Elizabeth? I can understand why. Have several over here. Thank you, Gregory. I know. Okay, I'm kind of curious what's happening here in the chat right now. They're talking about Santa Fe and Taos. I don't know if any of you have been there. Gregory has a place in Santa Fe. Santa Fe is in New Mexico. Taos is in New Mexico. Taos is way up in the mountains. It's a very tiny, small, isolated, kind of hippie, spiritual ski town, holiday place in winter. I think it has one street down the middle, and that's about it. It's very high altitude for America. I think it's about 9 or 10,000 feet, something like that. Elizabeth Boucher. Thank you, Mr. TL. Mr. TL, thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. I hope I didn't scare you with your reading. There have been kind of scary readings. The reading for Karen earlier was like, I was kind of almost shaking inside. But I think I did okay. I got through it in a very kind of neutral, pure way. I tried to do the same thing with Elizabeth, because for you, Elizabeth, I was feeling these really, it's almost like palpitations. Moving, moving, moving. And then Gregory put something in there about Taos. I don't know. But anyway, Gregory is very connected with the land. He knows a lot about the land, about Earth, about how, earthly things work. Taos is very beautiful, in case you're mentioning that, Gregory, as a tip for Elizabeth. Taos is it's like a little tiny piece of magic, okay? Well, to me it was Tina says it's a city in northern New Mexico. All I remember is that I had to go up a lot of wiggly mountain roads to get there, and it felt for me like it was a very small, tiny little spiritual, magical Zen kind of place. There is a Native American influence, but to me it felt very spiritual. Anyway, thank you, Elizabeth. Very good reading, thank you. All right, we're going to move on. We're going to do a reading for Mr. Ross. Wait a minute, I just realized something. I thought I saw Jeffrey was here in the chat. Did I see Jeffrey? Oh, there's another one. There's some other things going on here. Who's that? JB Shin, 1989. The reset has begun. Absolutely, you're true. There's Jeffrey. Hello, Jeffrey. I wanted to say hi. And Gabrielle Yeltsinkaya. Okay. Well, I'm doing my best to connect. It's fun. I like it when we have new people to the show. Thank you for the visitors who are out there. We've got 2 more readings tonight. One is for Gregory Ross. Another one is for Ukraine. Tina kindly donated so that we can have a little reading for Ukraine. I'm just going to use the same spread, but it's going to have a wide implication. Cards are already well shuffled, but I'm going to go to the very last second so that you're a witness. All right, Gregory, I'm probably going to end up going blind. I don't see any notes here from you. Some of you know from experience being on this show or this channel before, Gregory is very open-minded, very loving, very generous. He's been very helpful to other people on this channel. He has that kind of nature. He can't help it. Gregory can't help himself. Again, it's like there are quite a few people on this channel who have that in their built-in nature. Tina Miller, who's here frequently, Tina is a compassion junkie. She just literally can't help herself. The compassion is the default setting. It's the same with Gregory Ross. It's their default setting. I know other people like that in my life, in my world, but they don't come to this channel. I just know them personally as friends and family. But you guys here, you're like friends and family. Anyway, let's keep going, Mr. Ross. Let's see what we got. What kind of messages do we have from Mr. Ross tonight? Gregory, we're going to come to Ukraine in a little bit, so this is all about you. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Ross. Tina has noted that... Okay, let me see if I can do this. I don't think I can. I could if I was on a private meeting, but for tonight, right now, I'll just show you. So, Elizabeth, if in case you're still watching, here's New Mexico, okay? I don't know if you can see that. There's New Mexico. All right, can you see Santa Fe with the red star? That's where Gregory is. Now, if you see the little blue line just going up from there, like over here, Taos is round around here somewhere. It's way up in the mountains. Okay, so there you go. So here's a map of America. Everybody needs to know right now, Elizabeth lives in Los Angeles, right on the beach. Where's LA? There it is. There's it. Elizabeth lives right here. She's toying with these ideas about moving. And Gregory threw out the name Taos. That's right over here. That's about 1,000 miles away. It's a completely, utterly different world, okay? You just need to know that, okay, Elizabeth? But you have friends. Tina has spent years in New Mexico. Gregory has a lot of history in New Mexico. So you will not be alone. Maybe you need a break, okay, Elizabeth? Maybe you need to take a week off. I don't know if you can afford it or not, but, you know. Oh, gosh, excuse me. I just flipped some cards. I think we're good. All right, let's have a look. Yeah, we're going to come to that. Oh, let's have a look. Cut. Here's the situation. Here's the challenges. Here's how we're going to handle it. What's the surrounding energies? Okay, Fool. Well, my first impression with the Fool card here was bliss. Okay? It might not make sense to you, Gregory, at the moment right now, but with this particular energy field here right now, there's a really, really powerful Piscean theme, okay? And even though when I do my ranting and everything and I'm talking about all the global chaos and the murder and the blood and destruction, the financial mayhem and the cabal and the elites and all the abuse of power going on, sure, yeah, it's really good to know about the bad things that are happening so that you don't get into trouble. But at the same time, beautiful things are happening, okay? I don't know. I don't really watch a lot of tarot channels or astrology channels. I haven't done that for probably 8 years or so. But I wouldn't be surprised if there are channels talking a lot about the Piscean energy right now. The Sun is in Pisces, Jupiter's in Pisces, Neptune is in Pisces, the Moon was in Pisces just a couple days ago with the Pisces new moon on the 2nd. And today it's only the 6th of March, it's only a few days later. The Pisces new moon has already started. The moon was right here. The moon is already all the way over here, conjoined with Uranus, okay? Personally, in my life, Mr. Ross, I have been finding it very difficult to stay focused and to keep my mind intact as I sense the world from a multi-dimensional perspective. It's almost like trying to navigate your life by using a kaleidoscope. It's actually very difficult to do that. It almost doesn't even make sense. How can you possibly navigate your life when you are using a kaleidoscope instead of binoculars or a compass? It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, I'm just sharing with you, Gregory, that's my personal feeling. And so it's very, very beautiful, like the Piscean theme. By the way, I believe, this is personal now, I believe that the Piscean theme is actually really strong up here in and around Taos and Santa Fe without doing locational astrology, because it does have a very spiritual kind of vibration that goes with it. So the moment I saw the Fool card here, Gregory, I felt like, wow, it's like the normal, average, every day-to-day compass that we all use in life is redundant at the moment. You know, I don't know the details of your life, but for over here in my life, my world, I check things. I check my calendar. I check my watch. I check my email. I check my phone. I stay highly focused in the present, in the now. At the same time, I am feeling my life personally. I'm just sharing a parallel over here, Gregory, and as a way to try and explain what I'm sensing for you. What I'm sensing is with this huge Piscean theme, to me it feels like there's a lot of disorientation going on, where it's like this dizzy feeling like you get. I don't know if you've ever done this, Gregory, or any of you who are listening. Have you ever stood on the top of a very high building and went up to the ramparts at the very edges and looked over the side? I have done that myself. There was a period in my life personally. Gregory, just give me a second here, okay? I just want to share. I wasn't afraid of anything. I didn't care. Nothing scared me. Bullets, knives, people, thugs. I didn't care. You can't hurt me. You can't touch me. I remember when I lived in Cincinnati, Ohio, I went to the top of the biggest building in downtown. And I looked over the side and I thought, wow, that's really cool. You know, whatever it was, like 30 or 40 stories below. I thought, oh, that's really cool. And then I felt the vertigo, like, oh, wait a minute. I need to step back from the edge. Because it gets very disorienting. Your whole sense of perspective about life in the world and everything changes. Or it can change in certain conditions. So when I see the Fool card here, for you, like your surrounding conditions, it makes me feel like you have to be aware that for yourself, it could be very easy to feel disoriented or completely directionless, or almost having a sense of spiritual, physical, psychological vertigo with your life and your world. Like you would wake up in the morning and look around you like, what the heck is going on? How did I get here? Who am I? What am I supposed to be doing in life? What about the rest of the world? What's going on? And then you kind of stand up, you get out of bed, you look at the world around you, you go to the kitchen, you look out the back door, you look out the front door, you check your computers, your devices, or whatever. But the energy still continues, just like, oh my God, I'm living in a world gone insane. It's not just me. I'm not insane. The whole world is insane right now. Okay? So with a Fool card, makes me feel like this Piscean energy combined with the, okay, I'll be technical now, combined with the Aquarius Capricorn vibe, it's very disorienting for the world right now. Just a few weeks ago, before the build-up to Mars conjoined Capricorn, okay, before that, things were ticking along. Then about 2 weeks ago, roughly at the time of the Aquarius Leo full moon, kaboing, the whole Ukraine thing started to happen. And here we are roughly 2 weeks later, where my personal feeling here with this card for you, Gregory, is that the disorientation and the vertigo that is happening across planet Earth right now, okay? I'm trying to be as precise as I can in a very nebulous situation. The vertigo that is happening with humanity right now is being experienced by you personally as though it was personal. Okay? I don't know if that makes sense, Mr. Ross, but it's almost like you're very vulnerable to feeling the vertigo and the insanity and the absurdity of humanity right now, as if it's yours personally. Like the dissociation, like how can I say this? It's almost like you are part of humanity and you are dissolved into humanity, and yet you are uniquely yourself, okay? There's you, Gregory Ross, a completely unique individual in the pool of humanity, 7.5 billion people. And you're feeling it as if I don't know how to put this in words. I'm sorry, I'm really stuck for words right now. How do I describe that you are feeling or sensing the experience of humanity as if it's your own personal experience? You're feeling all the pain and the suffering, all the tragedy and the loss, and you're also sensing all the beauty and the wonder and the magic simultaneously. And you add it all up, it leads to vertigo. Go back to my little story, standing on top of a skyscraper looking over the side. It's absolutely spectacular. And it's also absolutely terrifying at the same time. And it triggers this complete disorientation of vertigo. Okay? That's what I'm sensing here for you, Gregory. You might not feel it as vertigo, But what I'm sensing here is that it's the equivalent of vertigo. What's the situation? You see? Try to find equilibrium and balance in this physical world, while at the same time there is so much turbulence happening around you and outside of you. Of course, you will find a way. It's literally, oh, now I know what you're talking about, TL, but my situation is that, yeah, let's just say I am taking it personally, and that I am making it my business to find and locate equilibrium and maintain that equilibrium so that you can still continue to be Gregory Ross, the person that you know. Now, what are the challenges here? We've already looked at a lot of it. Okay, so with the Death card here, you might feel as though there are huge external influences in your life right now that are outside of your control, to the point where you are being transformed, where life as you know it is being systematically, like I would say, slowly crushed and destroyed in order to make way for a new life. And it's the energy of transformation, the death of the old and the birth of the new. And of course, nobody wants to go through that. Everybody just wants to be up all the time. It's like the stock market. Everybody wants it to just go up, 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 and up, and forever. Nobody wants to deal with the reality check of having to rationalize now and again. So with the Death card here, my feeling is that deep inside of you, there's this fear of what's happening on a global scale, and that you're feeling it for the whole of humanity. But then distilling that down to you as an individual or person, how am I, Gregory Ross, supposed to find equilibrium and balance in my own life, in my own world, as the rest of the world around me changes irrevocably into something new and different. Irrevocable, okay? Remember, so just look very, very closely here. Gregor, I don't know if you can see it, but we're talking about new horizons over here. Can you see that? This is like a microscopic miniature version of the Moon card, knowing that there's a huge journey ahead, and you will keep going, and you will walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and you will survive. But it's very scary. So how are we going to deal with this? Okay, to me it looks very simple. You maintain your posture. A lot of you know Gregory already here. Some of you have been to this channel many times. You know Gregory very well. He's been very supportive over the years. Gregory is still here. As you know, he's a very kind, loving, and generous man. And he always extends the love as the first gesture. If someone else can't handle that or they can't receive it, that's their problem. But Gregory always comes in open-hearted and generous first. Living by example. He literally lives by example. He is literally the walking embodiment of extending and living in love. Sometimes it's very inconvenient, very troublesome, very quarrelsome, because when you conduct your life this way, you are guaranteed to encounter a lot of opposition or resistance or attempts to take you down. Because a lot of people can't handle that energy. It makes them feel less than. So the solution for you going forward, Gregory, is do not give up. Understand that we're going through like these monumental global shifts in historical levels, and your job is simply to continue being you, living by example, always putting love first. No matter how scary, no matter the vertigo, no matter how disorienting, no matter how scary the world is around you, like with Ukraine, your local community, your family situation, your finances, all of your whole life, the way forward is just to simply go back to your ultimate number one default setting, which is this. Okay? I'm not trying to inflate your ego or anything, Gregory. I'm just saying this is your default setting. King of Cups. You are a very kind, loving, generous person by nature. And every now and again, it's very inconvenient to be that way. It would be so much easier to be a thug or a lowlife or a scumbag. But in the end, you know that that doesn't work for you. So you end up having to go back to the default setting of being your true self. And this is a visual depiction of your true self. So the solution to the chaos, the vertigo, the insanity is to get back to what works. Okay? This is what works. It's hard to do that. The King of Cups energy, you don't want to mess with that. The King of Cups is the number one expert at maintaining emotional, heart-centered equilibrium against all odds. And that's very hard to do, but someone has to do it. Thank you, Mr. Ross. You are a shining example. Here we go. Next up, Ukraine. This is going to be interesting. Okay, I'm going to do another tiny little mini break. Just a teeny, if you don't mind, folks. I'm just going to do this over here. Oh. No, I don't want to play that one. I want to play something else. I'm going to play this little tune here. Here we go. Okay, I just need a pee break. I will be right back. Don't go away. Okay. Let's close that down. Okay. Yeah, Ukraine time. Okay. Thank you, Jeffrey. Sorry, that pee break went very, very quickly. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, so cards are well shuffled. I don't know what to... I feel like... Oh. It's interesting to... Well, it's not interesting. It's profound how the Ukraine situation has brought the whole world into a state of awareness about these very simple dynamics. I don't know if you've heard it online, but people are starting to say, you know what? This is just about good versus evil. That's it. Forget the politics, forget the American politics, the Russian politics, the European politics, the oligarchs, the plutocrats, the elites, the cabal, blah, blah, blah. It's just turning into good versus evil. And it is being displayed in what we call Ukraine. Ukraine is just this place on planet Earth where there's a bunch of people. But it just geographically, it's right on the dividing line between Russia and Western Europe. Ukraine is part of Eastern Europe. If you look at a map, let's see, I guess I'm going to get lost in one of my rants if I'm not careful. But I understand it when people are starting to say, you know what, this is just good and evil. Pretty much, it's when you see the media, for people like Tina Miller and myself and Love Triber and Path Traveler and probably a few others, if you're keeping an eye on the situation and you're watching the dynamics of what's happening in Ukraine, it's very easy to understand why people are starting to go like, you know what? This is just the battle between good and evil. That's it. Excuse me, I got something in my eye. Oh, so much junk in my eyes. Oh, anyway. And the difference today between what happened 20 years ago with 9/11 in America, the Twin Towers being bombed and all of that with the airplanes, is that we now have we're completely globalized through social media. Everybody, anywhere, at any time can connect with anybody, anywhere, at any time. That started to happen very quickly with the trucker rally in Canada, TikTok videos flying out everywhere, outrage in China, Hong Kong, and you get everything coalesces, just condenses and coalesces. This is the Pluto energy, extreme energy, black, white, left, right, good, evil. Everything started to coalesce at the time, a few weeks ago, when Mars was exactly conjoined with Pluto around 27 degrees. Capricorn. That is war. I look at the chart, it's war. And guess what's happening? War. I was talking to Love Triber weeks ago, in fact months ago, and she was asking, well, what do you see? And I said, I see war. I see violent, bloody war. I see it dragging out and dragging out. Because that's how human beings figure things out. If you can't figure things out up here with logic and reason and compromise and negotiation, everything descends further and further to the point where the only way you sort things out is through violence, murder, bloodshed, war. And then finally, you get to these points of realization and awakening. where some people say enough is enough. But we're in one of those situations right now. A few years ago, there was something very similar on a much smaller scale over in Gaza between Israel and the Gaza Strip. And then we had 20 years, 15 years of Middle East wars. And before that, we had all the Middle European wars like Bosnia and stuff, and Chechnya. And before that, you keep going back in history. I'm not a historian, don't quote me, but you end up going back into, the Cuban Missile Crisis for President Kennedy in the 60s, and the Vietnam War and the Cold War of the 50s and the 60s, World War II, World War I, in between World War I, World War II. Isn't it interesting how Pluto was so-called discovered around the time that all these global wars started to happen? Before that, wars were localized. Pluto involves the masses, extreme violence, extreme power, extreme wonder, extremes of anything. It's very hard energy to understand or manage, but it's very blunt and obvious. Neptune is very different. Anyway, here we are today, 2022, the Ukraine crisis. You could say the Ukraine crisis is very symbolic of the evolution of humanity. We're seeing it displayed all over the world on social media. Through the big news channels and through the small private channels we talked about earlier. Thank you, Tina. Tina brought a very good point. There are veterans, Army, combat, frontline, battle-hardened military veterans that are coming from all over the world to fight for the Ukrainian people. The fight is for freedom. And it's literally turning out into good versus evil. Symbolically, you could say that Putin and his attack on Ukraine represents evil, and the resistance and the survival represents good. Tina wants to go herself. There are a lot of people who wish they could get to the front lines right now and with a shoot 'em up bang bang and just frickin' obliterate the evil. It's actually hard to do. There are people there are literally tens of thousands of people right now, most of them Ukrainians, who are willing to set down their lives, their physical body. The last time this happened on this scale was 1776. Okay? 1776 revisited. This is what's happening now in the world today. The Pluto energy from 245 years ago is being repeated today. We have the Pluto return of the United States. But instead of just the United States versus the British, it's now good versus evil. Same thing. But it's happening on a global scale. And the Ukraine is the actual battleground. This is the physical, biological battleground where good meets evil. And it's happening with extreme violence, complete disregard for love. The energy of love is non-existent in the Russian pressure. What is really scary, some of you have probably seen this on the news already, there are a lot of Russian soldiers who are starting to realize that they got conned. They got scammed. They got brainwashed into being noble representatives of the motherland. going to fight for Russia. And then they are discovering that they are being used as expendable pawns in a game where their life is irrelevant. They are dying, they're being shot down. Some of them have shared their stories online where I'm a Russian soldier and I'm realizing I don't want to do this. I don't want to kill these Ukrainian people. I was told we were on a military exercise, and now here I am. I'm slaughtering Ukrainian civilians. I'm killing old people. I'm killing women. I'm killing children, according to the commands from my commanders and ultimately from Vladimir Putin. So Vladimir Putin is now like enemy number one on planet Earth. So there's everyone else, and then there's Vladimir Putin. Now Vladimir has every good reason to do what he's doing, as far as he's concerned. It's just not working for everybody else. Oh, Tina wants to go to the hospital. Okay. Well, it's really tricky. I don't know. I'm not in a position to go to Ukraine. I couldn't go even if I wanted to, and I don't even know what I would do there if I could. But I understand you, Tina. There are literally people all over the world right now who are going into the Ukraine trying to help. There's a lot of British veteran soldiers, armed, weapons. There's a lot of Polish, Hungarian, Swedish, Finnish, Romanian, Hungarian. There are American veteran soldiers going to the Ukraine to fight for the Ukrainians right now. They didn't ask for permission from Joe Biden. They didn't say, hey, listen, can I leave my day job for a few days to go over? They just said, fuck it, I'm going to go. This is unacceptable. I'm going to do what I have to do. I'm willing to lay down my life in order to protect that which is good, that which is loving, freedom. A lot of this, the momentum, in a way you could say it happened, began about a month ago with the Canadian Trucker Freedom Rally. And the first spark of outrage happened when Justin Trudeau in Canada showed himself for what he really is. He's a cabal member. He's part of the elite. He's a complete totalitarian freaking monster liar, abuser. That's who he is. And the Canadians said, enough is enough. Same thing's happening in America right now. People are starting to realize that Joe is a traitor. He's committing treason to this country. He's defiling anything and everything that he can about the goodness of American principles as established in 1787 Declaration, the date of the first Constitution. Anyway, so let me get on with the reading, okay? I have no idea what's going to show up here. Tina is already a highly experienced ER nurse, emergency room, ICU, intensive care unit. She has a very high skill level, and it's obvious that Tina is being heavily triggered right now to want to simply... Yes, I've seen that, Tina. I know what you're talking about. It's absolutely... It's almost incomprehensible. They have mobile crematoriums, and the idea is to make it look to the public and the whole world that there's no record or trace of all the Russian soldiers who are dying in this war. I am old enough to have observed a lot of warfare across the world, but this this is unlike anything I've ever seen before, and I think that's why it is captivating the attention of everybody on Earth right now. And of course, it lines up perfectly with the astrology. Love Triber was mentioning how Vladimir Putin is simply fulfilling his role. However you want to look at that. It's the same thing as Hitler. Some people feel that Adolf Hitler was simply fulfilling his role in his very tragic, let's say, commitment as a human being to be the expression of the absence of love. Someone has to do it, because in human terms, the only way you can recognize or understand things is through reflection of the opposite energy. So right now, it's very tragic, it's very sad, but it's also absolutely perfect and in alignment with humanity. Okay, let's get on with it. Let's do this, okay? Thank you, Tina. I'm just going to do the same old spread that I do. Because I want to know, just like you guys. That was a bit choppy. Here we go. Here's the situation. Here's the challenges. Here's how we're going to handle it. Let's have a look at the environmental influences, the planets, and all of that. Okay, this looks extremely karmic. I've got the Six of Pentacles here. I think what's happening with the Ukraine situation is that there's this intense focus of energy that's bringing things into balance, that need to be brought into balance, that have to be brought into balance, where it's like a lot of it is being measured in terms of money, wealth, poverty. If you're on the right side of the equation, it's extremely bountiful for you. If you're on the wrong side of the equation, it's crippling poverty. Also, I see a lot of charity going on here. What's being triggered is huge amounts of charity. It's like a worldwide charitable operation that's happening right now, where those in need are starting to receive. They're starting to receive bounty from those who are able to share and give their bounty without depletion of their own bounty. Some people are very lucky to receive. Some people are still desperate, still needing to receive. I believe this is like the symbolization of the humanitarian crisis. It's a humanitarian crisis. It isn't just a war. It's not just, Ukrainian this, Ukrainian that. Ukrainians were in the pockets of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden in America, and they are already extremely corrupt, pseudo-Russians anyway. So the Ukrainians deserve all the shit that's coming to them because they're just, an old part of Russia anyway. Okay, there's that storyline. But there's the other storyline where it's like Ukraine is sick of all the bullshit and evil from over here. Okay, let's get the map. Okay, there's little Ukraine. Okay, there it is. I hope the map will show it. See, there's Ukraine. Right here on the borderline. You have to understand that this part of the world here, right here, they've probably had more wars, more bloodshed than anywhere else on Earth. This is one of the most brutal and bloody battlefields of humanity. It's been going on for thousands of years Here we are today again. You could see this line here is kind of a borderline. Here's Russia, here's Moscow, here's Ukraine. A few decades ago, Ukraine, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia were all part of Russia. There was a time when Finland was really part of Russia. And there was a time where pretty much all of the all of the Balkan states here were part of Russia. So there's this kind of constantly fluctuating borderline between Russia and the free world of Western Europe. And this battlefield is now reactivated, but it's on a very profound global scale. Everybody on Earth is realizing we have to watch YouTube videos to find out what's really going on here. This is the battleground. You see that? It's like this is the battleground between good and evil. And there's Kiev. That's the capital. Look at that. It's right on the 30-degree longitude. I don't know what that means, but it looks very, very important to me. You could say this energy here represents evil. Now remember, Russians are not evil. It's the political oligarchs and plutocrats that are evil. They want this back. They want all this. They want all of that back again to restore their sense of ego and power and control and money in the world. And they're willing to fight to the death to make that happen. And then all the folks over here are like, oh my God, this is disgusting. Oh my God, this is disgusting. The Ukrainians are the ones who are being killed right now. And over here in Europe with the NATO alliance and the United States and the European Union, they're all sitting there kind of going, oh, this is really terrible. Oh, this is really, 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 really bad. In fact, it's just awful. But we are not going to go to war with Russia because the war is actually between Ukraine and Russia. I'm sorry, but it's not. It's between Russia and the rest of the world. It is between evil and good, between good and evil. There are agendas going on here. There are people over here and here who benefit and prosper tremendously from this war, especially if you're in the oil and gas industry. So over here, this is the battle. This is where all the blood is happening. Civilians, it's just disgusting. This is where the Neptune energy, the Pluto energy is being expressed in its darkest, most shadow forms. Evil, destruction, murder, thuggery, it's disgusting. And it shows in the charts on the shadow side. The story's not over. All that's happening is that we are looking at the opening chapters of an ongoing story. For the average human being over in the Ukraine area, it's a humanitarian crisis. That's what this is all about, is the humanitarian crisis. This represents the Aquarius energy of Saturn and Mercury in Aquarius right now. And what is the rest of the world going to do about it? Here we are. Let's see the situation itself. Okay, so we got the Four of Cups here. To me, it feels like it's very easy to get lost in the tragedy, the pain and the loss and the suffering. I know I'm suffering from this energy myself. The sickness, the squalor, the evil, the murder that's happening over in Ukraine would very naturally take you into a state of sorrow and depression and loss of hope, a loss of any kind of belief that there is any hope for humanity. And yet, at the same time, we're seeing humanitarian outpourings on a scale hardly ever witnessed before on Earth. So the love is there. We're seeing this visual energy. Okay, do you see that? We're seeing this at the same time that we're seeing this. But the people on the ground don't notice. It's like all the news is focused on the tragedy. But in reality, there is a tremendously loving energy that is out there and available to humanity. And it's actually happening right now. To me, this is a very strange interpretation of the Four of Cups, because it feels to me like both storylines of the Four of Cups are happening simultaneously. The beauty and the wonder and the opportunity for love, infinite love to flow, is happening right now at the same time as the squalor and the sadness and the pain and the tragedy. Now, what's the problem here? This is very difficult to manage, understand. Okay, what I see here with the Four of Swords is just like, obviously we need truce, but what I see even deeper is that how on earth is it possible to heal a situation like this? It's humans versus humans. I guarantee there are plenty of Russian soldiers who have friends and family in Ukraine, and they are being forced to kill their friends and family in Ukraine. And there are plenty of people in Ukraine who have friends and family in Russia, and they are feeling like they have to kill the Russians, even though they're friends and family. So it's very, very tragic. So how on earth can you expect to have any kind of healing when we're murdering and killing our own brothers and sisters and moms and dads and cousins and nieces and nephews? How on earth is it possible to have any kind of healing in a situation like this? That's really terrifying. To me, this is really, really scary. It's very obvious that we need peace, we need healing, but how on earth is that possible? Because what I feel is happening right now on a global scale at the spiritual level is this massive bloodletting, where everything has reached this crescendo, where the political, nuances of left versus right, Democrats, Republicans, capitalists versus communists, evil totalitarians versus, free libertarians. It's all happening, and it's condensed into blood right now. Death and blood and murder. How on earth can humanity have even a chance to heal ourselves after what's happening right now? Well, please understand that today is quite different. So remember, in World War I and World War II, there were millions of people killed. World War II, tens of millions of people were slaughtered and killed. You had Stalin and Hitler, and then over in communist China, they slaughtered tens of millions of people. Okay? So in terms of the actual scale of blood and death and murder, what is happening today in Ukraine is minimal. But that does not diminish the tragedy of what's happening there. Because it feels just as bad, if not worse. It's almost like people are saying this is World War III. So how do we deal with this going forward? What about Ukraine? What are we going to do? Come on, Ukraine. Okay, it looks to me like they're just going to rally together as family, which is kind of what they're doing already. But we're going to take it to the next level. I think what's going to happen here, the solution is we're talking about the family of humankind. The family of humankind will rally together and turn this into a party. like a rescue party, like a humanitarian rescue party. You know, you get to the point where you have to laugh or else you would cry. So what I'm sensing here with the Four of Wands is that the way to go is kind of where we're already starting to head, where we turn this into a party. You know what? Vladimir, you may be a serious badass. You may be scaring the shit out of us. You may be killing women, children, old people in their houses, their apartments, their hospitals, their grocery stores, in their neighborhoods, just to scare the shit out of the Ukrainians and to try and break their spirit, to try and break their heart, their home, their sense of family and community. But it's not working, Vladimir. Vladimir, you're in deep trouble. Of course, he's not going to admit that. So what's going to happen is this perpetuation of war. It's going to drag on and on and on because it can. There are very few people, there's probably only a few thousand, maybe the tens or 20,000s or 30 or probably less, maybe 100,000 people maximum who are willing to get on the battlefield with the Ukrainian front line to face off the evil monsters. But it is happening. It's literally bang bang versus bang bang, bang bang versus bang bang. It's very sad, very tragic, and the whole world is watching. But what's also happening, I feel, when I see the Four of Wands here, it's like the whole world is saying, you know what? This is our problem. It isn't just the Ukrainian problem. This is the family of humankind. We're going to coalesce together. We're going to turn this into a fuck you party. That's what we have to do. That is the solution here. It is literally like what the Russian public is doing right now. The Russian public are telling Putin, no war. We're the Russian people. We don't want war with Ukraine. Stop what you're doing. As you can tell, Putin does not represent the Russian people. Putin represents Putin and about 200 oligarchs. That's it. It's a criminal organization managed by a very, very capable thug. Sorry, Vladimir. You're probably amazing in your own ways. Maybe you have kids and a wife and whatever, but you're essentially a thug. And you use indiscriminate violence in the most effective ways possible to create fear and horror and pain and suffering. He's doing an outstanding job. However, he's meeting a lot of resistance. I don't think the Four of Wands is fully activated yet, but I think it will, and I feel that it will be activated. Like the way forward is for the family of humankind. In other words, the Aquarian theme that's very powerful right now. Saturn conjoined Mercury in Aquarius right now. Business, in other words, financial sanctions and so on, and karmic consequences for misbehavior. It's all perfect. Everything is happening perfectly right now. And so it's like what happens in tribal situations where a bunch of, let's say, otherwise unconcerned tribes realize, you know what? It is getting very brutal and very simple right now. Let's set aside our differences. We will create one unified resistance movement. And it's going to be a freaking party. We are going to show the world what we can do as a species to take down the enemy. That's what I feel is happening with the Four of Wands. I don't see any quick solution here. The reason I don't see a quick solution is because the reality is not a lot of people really want to stand in front of guns and bullets in order to make a point. Because you could die. And then you can't make a point anymore. But there are tens of thousands, I don't know how many, of Ukrainians who are basically saying, screw it, I've lost everything already, I've got nothing left to lose, give me a frickin' gun, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to take down the enemy. And that has triggered a sense of inspiration to the rest of humanity, where other human beings are going to go like, wow, this is amazing. This is amazing. The Ukrainians are defying the whole of the Russian army. It's not the whole Russian army that's there right now, but there's a big chunk of the Russian army, and they are in deep doo-doo. There's a lot of things that they would like to do, but they can't. There's lots of things that they could do, but they can't. So they're really, really stuck. They're really, really stuck in the mud. But of course, what happens when a thug meets extreme resistance, they just become more violent. So the thing about, you have to understand the thing about Putin, he's not going to, no one can stop him through negotiations or compromises or whatever. The only way you can stop Putin is with blunt force. That is violence. That's the only thing he understands in the end. Ultimately, because he's just going to keep going. He's going to keep going until somebody stops him. So there is, I would say, plenty more blood on the horizon. Plenty more blood on the menu as the storyline unfolds. It's very tragic. It's very sad. However, when you look at it on a global scale from the perspective of humanity, good versus evil, then, yeah, we can do this. We can do this. It's going to be a party. A freedom party. The same vibe that is happening in Canada with the Freedom Trucker Rally, the same vibe that's happening in America with the Freedom Trucker Rally all around circling Washington, D.C. right now. Joe Biden is shitting himself. The same thing that is happening with the Russian people who are saying, screw this shit. The same thing that's happening all over the rest of the world, India, Southeast Asia. This is not acceptable. The people are rising up because they can. And even though the elites have all the money and the power and the control at the very top of the pyramid, there's only a few thousand of them. There's billions of us. Yeah. So we might as well make it a party. Yeah, maybe a few of us are going to go down. But it's like the people who are actually, all those volunteer veterans and soldiers who are actually moving from all over America, Europe, Western Europe, South America. There's people from all over the world who are moving in to Western Europe right now to find a way to get into the Ukraine so that they can fight on the battlefront, putting their life on the line with weapons and guns to take down the enemy. It's spectacular. So the show's not over. I think what's happening is a coalescence of humanity. Good versus evil. Anyway, I think we're done here. There's a lot more to come, people. Thank you, Tina. Thank you so much. This is a really beautiful card. Do you see that? We will prevail, people. We will prevail. It is bringing the earth together in a humanitarian way. Like, we are all one. We are one. Forget which country. Are you black? Are you Mexican? Are you Asian? Even China is involved in this, because I think China and Xi Jinping are starting to realize, oh my God, it's not going to be that easy to take down America and the principles of freedoms after all, because what's happening in Ukraine is being very closely observed by China. And yes, it's very bloody, and sure that Vladimir Putin is getting away with murder to some extent, but seriously, there is a vast, vast coalition of humanity that is growing together to oppose the enemy. Tina said something here. They've cornered the bear. Yeah. Literally. Can you imagine, like, lots of, 10,000 little tiny rabbits and gerbils and mice and sparrows and raccoons and everything trying to face off an angry bear. An angry bear, that's actually kind of a very historically well-established identity for Russia, or in particular the Russian oligarchs, is the bear. Because when they get angry, they just use pure violence to sort out their problems. Oh, I didn't see that. No, TL. No, Tina, I didn't see that. TL, did you see this parallel? They are playing the pianos as Ukraine refugees arrive in Poland. Yeah. It's a party. Okay? It's a party. We're turning it into a party. I wonder if I can play the. I can't play this song because my channel will get shut down. I wish I could play it. I wonder if I could dare to do it. Oh man. I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never going to take me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never going to take me down. Anyway. So let's leave it at that. I don't think I can do much more with the reading here. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful evening. I'm sorry and sad about all the tragedy that's happening right now. It's very ugly at the same time that it's very beautiful, because this tragedy is bringing humanity together in a way that's never actually happened before on Earth. It's happening because it can. We are all connected now through the beauty of these amazing Aquarian, Uranian things called the internet. And this fundamental aspect of human nature that ultimately we are loving, we are loved. We love to be loving, we love to be loved. The natural default setting for a human being is almost like a little pet, like a little animal, like they are loving. Like a little baby pig, a little baby chicken, a baby fish, a baby gerbil, a baby horse, a baby cow, a baby eagle. They are born with nothing but love inside of them. Now, they might carry stress and trauma from their environment, their parents, or whatever, but ultimately, love is the default setting. The tragedy is that the default setting becomes corrupted and eroded from even before the moment you're born. I know this for a fact because I have family where I know one of my cousins years ago they got pregnant. It was a mom and a dad. They got pregnant and they gave birth to a little boy. And I personally believe that this little boy was conceived during extreme stress. And then they had another little baby boy, also conceived during extreme unhealthy situations. And even before these little boys were born, I felt it. And when they were born, and then I saw the way that these little boys were growing, I realized that I was absolutely right. So I'm not saying that we're all born pure in love, because at the very core we are pure. We are loving, we are loved. But the process of contamination and the absence of love is happening simultaneously. Anyway, I gotta get going. I know we've been here for a long time. Was it 5? We've been here over 3.5 hours, so it's time to go. You have lives to live. I have a life to live. Well, I hope to see you all again really soon. I'm doing whatever I can to help the world, help Ukraine, friends and family. Number one, the most important thing is to do what is right for you. Love thyself, be loving, be loved, live by example. It might be tough sometimes, but live by example, okay? All right, so I'm going to check out now. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Gregory. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Karen. Who else? Thank you, everybody. And for the newbie people who are here as well, thank you for showing up and visiting. I'm going to wrap it up now. Keep it very, very simple. And we will depart. And we'll see you guys again. Okay? Sorry. Here we go.